even though when you're working you may be very busy, and it's very difficult to keep any kind of a meditation object in your mind, because you've got to think about the people you're looking after and all the different aspects of that, you can still contemplate. And he says, just bring into your mind that you're looking after sick people, assessing their symptoms, seeing their different conditions. Just bring that into your mind and reflect, well, this is the nature of human life. This body is impermanent, subject to sickness and aging. I will be like that, you will go that way. And just keep contemplating the Dhamma. So it's still a Dhamma practice of wisdom, getting to see the true nature of our lives is like this. So even though it's hard to say be with the breath, you can still gain some Dhamma out of that daily work that you do. As far as the techniques of meditation, like sometimes you use the breath, sometimes posture, sometimes contemplate the body, these things, it doesn't matter if you experiment a bit, you use different techniques at different times, that's okay. But the main thing is to learn what helps to make your mind more peaceful, more calm, bring up mindfulness, and you'll use that technique more. So observe, as you try or experiment different techniques, observe what's working and what are the results of these different aspects of meditation you might have been trying. See which ones work best, then you can use them more. This contemplation, you can do through your day, you can do it constantly. So you have one patient come in, and you're treating them, but at the same time you're recognizing this is the suffering of the body. This person has this kind of karma, they have some illness or injury. The next person comes in, or another person, they've also got suffering, they've also got their karma, they've got some illness, some injury. Another person comes in, through the day you're seeing over and over again different aspects of dukkha, different aspects of the real nature of our existence as human beings, is that our body is fragile, subject to illness. So that you can keep returning to the same contemplation, and it's a meditation you're doing while you're working. You're at the same time just observing, this is the nature of our existence, and it gives you more of a sense, detached knowing of the truth. You actually use your work as a vehicle for developing wisdom. Anybody else have any questions?
You're just suffering about certain things in your life, and you can't change the problem. How do you cope with it?
If it's suffering over something you can't change, a problem you can't change, then the only way to free yourself from that suffering is to bring your mind to accept whatever it is that has brought up this suffering. Accept, this has happened to me, or this thing has happened, or this situation has happened. I'm suffering from it, and I didn't like it, it wasn't pleasant, or whatever. You just accept that. This has happened, I can't change that, and start to let go in that way. But just understand, this has happened. This is something that I can't change. Get away from, rather than grasping. We say attaching in a way where we say, "Oh, this shouldn't have happened," or might be resisting it. It shouldn't have happened, or I wish it had never happened. That's where your mind is attaching to maybe some idea or some expectation, or things should be different than they are, and that will constantly feed more suffering. You always feel unhappy whenever you think about this one problem or one issue. Whereas when you're mindful, you just bring up the reflection. Well, this is something that's happened. I cannot change that fact. It's happened, so I must accept it. Must let go. Does that help? Need any more? Is there any more detail? Okay.
Just a question on exercise, just the sorts of exercise, just to maintain the body that are good, and exercise that qualities and so forth.
As far as sort of different techniques to exercise, it's really what we find suitable for us, what our skills are. Some people run, some people go to a gym, some people do yoga. There's many different ways of exercising. Use exercise, obviously, as a thing to help keep you healthy, and you see what system or what kind of exercise is suitable for you and feel you can do, and then always try to develop mindfulness as you do that exercise. So you're aware of yourself performing that particular task, running or swimming or going to the gym. Use it as a basis for developing mindfulness. You're aware of your posture, your mind, all these things as you're doing that exercise. Cho mình thô phải không?
Body đó.
As far as whether it's harmful or it's going to create any harmful results, you learn to do it in a balanced way, not extreme, not pushing yourself so it's physically you're hurting or in pain or causing yourself to be ill or something.
What are Ajahn views on this sort of training, studying Kung Fu and stuff like that?
Kung Fu, Kung Fu and Muay Thai. Still, it's okay. It's the only way to exercise and again practice mindfulness. Like the Chinese monks, Shaolin monks.
Oh, maybe not so hardcore.
Any other questions?
I do, Ajahn. I just would be very grateful if Ajahn would speak the Dhamma, whatever he would like to say.
So this is the third time that I've visited Buddha Bodhivana Monastery here in East Warburton. It's my fourth trip to Melbourne since I first came 13 years ago. Ajahn came here about 10 years ago to start this monastery, and now we can see it's grown up into a place where we can say it's a true refuge for both Sangha and laity to come and practice. We've spent time building the monastery up, the facilities, and there's still more to do. This is one part of our practice. We're building the external monastery, but at the same time we also have to learn to build the inner monastery through our practice, building up the qualities of the Dhamma in our minds and our hearts. The foundation of this practice is dana, the practice of generosity and what we might call self-sacrifice. One has to really sacrifice to practice generosity and kindness for others and to do that which is good. Say, to build this monastery, people had to sacrifice to buy the land, raise funds to build things, bring different kinds of the four requisites to support the Sangha and the lay people who practice here, and so on. All of this requires some sacrifice. When we do practice dana, though, we make sacrifices, we put effort into this. The result is we experience a lot of piti and sukha, joy and happiness from our actions, recollecting them, seeing what the results of what we've done, seeing the dana that others do as well. This is something we build on to develop our minds into a higher, more refined kinds of happiness and more understanding of the Dhamma. Originally, this mind, you could say, in its natural state, it's translucent, radiant, a bit like water. Water in its natural state is just transparent and clear. It'll only change its colour if you add something of colour to it, some dye or some liquid of strong colour that will change the colour of the water. But similarly, our mind is like that. Naturally, it's just radiant and pure and translucent, but then due to changing conditions, mental states and moods come up, stirred by different experiences we have, and brings forth all kinds of thinking and mental proliferation based on sometimes past experiences, sometimes based on what's happening to us right now. Sometimes we project into the future what might happen, what will happen. All of these thoughts and moods that come up, you can say, colour the mind. So we have to learn how to deal with that fact, that truth, skillfully. How do we practice with that? It's like living here, say at this time of year the weather can be very cold, as we've seen today. We have to learn how do we live skillfully with cold weather. Well, we get ourselves warm winter clothes, we might have heaters in our buildings, we insulate the buildings and so on. All of this allows us to survive and to carry on living in somewhere where it's cold. We don't just let ourselves suffer out in the cold and struggle. That would just lead to us, maybe falling ill. So similarly, with this truth that the mind is coloured by its moods and prone to experiencing different moods and mental states, then we have to learn how to deal with that skillfully in the same way. What are the tools, the things that assist us to deal with the changing moods of the mind and the way the mind functions? Well, the skills and tools we use are mindfulness and wisdom. We use these to look after the mind and to deal with the fact that we do have different mental states arising based on our daily experience. Experience of pleasure and pain gives rise to moods of liking, disliking, and all kinds of mental proliferation and emotional states come from this. So we develop our mindfulness and our wisdom on a daily basis. This is something we keep coming back to, these tools, we keep developing and using them. Whether we're doing formal meditation, say quietly at home or in a monastery, or whether we're working and active and doing different things, we keep bringing up this quality of mindfulness, mindful awareness. We might stop from time to time during our day just to re-establish mindfulness, compose ourselves in a quiet moment. And this is how we can quieten the mind down and actually start to see the nature of this mind and this life. We can start to reflect on things truly as they are, see them truly as they are with wisdom. We might have things that come up in our daily life that allow us to see deeper into the true nature of this life. Say, for instance, we might be a doctor or a nurse or something. Every day we're dealing with people who are ill and aging or suffering in different ways through their health issues. That can be a reflection that can give us wisdom if we apply mindfulness and just stop and contemplate, say, the people around us and the people we're involved with. You can see at a time of the year like this, just a small change in the weather, maybe people start to fall ill, they get colds and flu very easily. This is a reflection. It starts to teach us something about the nature of our existence as human beings. It's quite fragile, uncertain. We can fall ill very easily. You see a sick person, this is really what we call a heavenly messenger, a Devadutta. And we can be just like the Lord Buddha himself, who went out of the palace and came across these heavenly messengers, saw sick people, old people, corpses and so on, and started to reflect on the nature of our existence. We have to reflect to see, well, what happens to human beings? Well, we all get older every day. We do get sick. One day we've got to die. This is the truth, the true way things are. When we die, we have to separate from everything that we love and like. We separate from our wealth and possessions. We separate from our loved ones, family and friends. If we don't reflect on this, then we end up suffering, don't we? Because we cannot accept the truth of the separation. We cannot accept the truth of the impermanence of our life and all the things we love. If we're to avoid suffering, then we have to develop mindfulness and wisdom to investigate more closely until the mind starts to come to terms with this truth. That's the only way we can really let go or abandon our habit of clinging and attaching to everything in this world. That's the only way we can free ourselves from suffering. Maybe ask yourself, just say in the middle of your day as you're going about your daily business, learn to ask yourself, well, what is my state of mind right now? What am I thinking right now? Am I experiencing greed, or is the mind free of greed? Am I experiencing anger, or is the mind free of anger? Am I experiencing delusion, or is the mind free of delusion? Keep bringing up this awareness little by little, and you start to become clear in your mind of what moods and mental states you're experiencing, whether it's liking and disliking. You can see the emotional states, the mental proliferation coming from these experiences of liking and disliking. This is the way we build up strength of mind and strength of heart, by developing mindfulness and wisdom and learning to reflect on our own experience in this way. This gives us some kind of an inner refuge, just like you need a house to shelter from the weather when it's cold or hot or it's raining. You need to build up your mind so it can shelter and protect you from the experiences of living in the world, or the pleasant, the unpleasant experiences that we have that keep conditioning and affecting us. So we have to put forth effort into our daily practice. Keep bringing up mindfulness and keep reflecting on the truth. If we can learn to do this on a regular basis, practice mindfulness, practice meditation, listen to the Dhamma, do chanting and so on, where you'll find little by little, then the level of your mind, the level of peace of mind, the level of understanding will grow. Sometimes you might have obstacles, things you still can't understand properly yet, so you can always come to the monastery and ask the teacher here, Ajahn Anan. You have to reflect, if we don't practice, then what's the alternative? Where you'll find that time just passes by and by endlessly and very quickly, and it will seem after a while you just realize you're not really going anywhere in your life. You won't be improving the level of your understanding, not experiencing any more peace, because time waits for no one. We might come all the way to the end of our lives without having done any practice, and that's something we should really reflect on. When you come to the end of your life, you have to leave everything behind. You'll have nothing left to depend on. You can't take your family and friends with you, you can't take your wealth with you. So we should really work to develop something internally, some peace of mind and some wisdom, so that we can come to terms with the very truth of impermanence. Everyone can do this. Everyone has the chance to contemplate, everyone has the chance to build up mindfulness. And we all have the breath. We can all practice being aware of the breath going in, the breath going out, as a way to develop mindfulness. We can all bring our mind to contemplate, to see the truth, to see through the sort of, normally we're attached to the superficial appearance of reality. We give labels to things, and we names to things, and we get caught up into the sort of superficial description of things that we have in our mind, but that just is coming from ignorance and attachment. We can develop wisdom, though, to see through that or transcend that, and that's what liberates the heart. For some time, for an example, you might say, well, look at this eating hall, this room here. If there were just maybe 3 or 4 people come to offer dana on a day, then you look around at this hall and you think, this hall is a reasonably sized hall for the number of people, or you might even say it's quite large. But then, say on another day, if you have 100 people here, suddenly it becomes very packed and you feel cramped. In actuality, the room, the 4 walls of the room and the floor and all the things that make up this room, they stay the same, it doesn't change. They're just the 4 elements of earth, air, fire and water come together to make a room. But the mind changes, doesn't it? Its perceptions, its labels, which it adds on to its experience, that changes. The room can seem small, it can seem large, we can like it, we can dislike it, and so on. This is the way ignorance creates attachment, and from this we suffer. So we should really use our free time to make our mind ripe, or the conditions ripe for us to see through these sort of more superficial perceptions and understandings of things, so that we can free ourselves from the causes of suffering and by developing insight into the Dhamma. We all have the power and the potential to do this. We've all been lost in the superficial reality, what we call the samuttisacca of things, for so long now. We've been suffering in different ways. But we all have the opportunity to practice, to develop the mindfulness and the wisdom to free ourselves from that. So to know the Dhamma or understand the Dhamma, we just begin with what we have, this body and this mind. For instance, observe this body, say when you fall ill or you have some pain or injury. The first thing that happens is, in the mind we say, I wish I wasn't ill, I wish I didn't have this pain, I wish it wasn't like this. But it comes and we can't do much about it, we can't change that fact. Even, it might go further than that, we might get ill and we say, I want to get fit and healthy again quickly. But maybe your illness takes time, it takes time to get better, and it only goes slowly. On and on it goes like this, and the body is like this, but the mind starts to judge things and make things out of the experience of the body. We don't want painful feelings to arise in this body, but then sometimes they come. So we have to use mindfulness and wisdom to reflect on these experiences. We can even make a painful feeling the object of our mindfulness. We direct the mind to know that painful feeling and to investigate it. And if it's in a part of the body, say the leg for instance, you can ask your question, is this the leg the pain? Is the pain the leg? Is the bone the pain? Is the flesh, the muscle the pain? Or not? If you keep asking these sort of questions and looking at it, you start to see more clearly exactly what pain is, what vedana, painful feeling is. It's one thing. The physical body is another thing. Did I ask for this pain? Where's this pain come from? It arises according to its own conditions, causes and conditions. When the conditions change, well, the pain might change and go away. Really, pain is, it's transmitted through the nerves send messages to the brain, and we get this feeling called pain. It's another way of looking at it, just learning to look at it more closely, exactly what is going on, to understand where this pain comes from, what it is, and what exactly is it, and also to know what it is not. By contemplating like this, you're developing wisdom and understanding on a deeper level to know the nature of pain and seeing pain as pain. We can understand the whole thing better, the whole aspect of pain on a deeper level. We can see really that this pain is a matter of causes and conditions rather than this is me, this is my pain with a sense of self. When we can see it in this way, just see pain as pain, just know it as that much, then the mind lets go of all that additional suffering that it would normally add on to that experience. It just knows pain as pain, it doesn't suffer with it. It's a bit like eating an apple. You don't need to know the name of an apple and where it's from and all that to know what an apple tastes like. You just pick it up, bite into it, and you can get the taste of the apple. You don't have to know or the theory about it, or the names or anything. You just have to know that taste. Practice is a bit like this. We just develop this quality of knowing things as they are, seeing things as they are, and this is what brings us wisdom. So you can take a painful feeling as an object in your meditation. You just start to establish your mindfulness, direct your mind to be mindful of that pain. In the time of the Lord Buddha they did this. There was one monk who was very sick, and at first he was being neglected. None of the other monks were taking any interest in him. So the Buddha took it upon himself to go and visit that monk. And he saw he was very sick, he had many bodily sores and pains, so he bathed him and nursed him and looked after him. He gave him a lot of kindness, so that helped that monk's state of mind improve a little bit. Before he'd been kind of writhing around, suffering with his illness, being unable to contemplate. But now the Buddha gave him some relief and some support. He felt a lot better in his mind, so now he could turn it to direct his mind to be mindful of the pain, as the Buddha taught him. And he actually managed to become very, very mindful and just see that the real nature of this body and the pain of the body is that it's not self. These are just what they are, parts of nature, elements. The body is just elements of nature. Pain is just an experience of nature. It arises and passes away. It's impermanent. He was investigating in this way to see that this body is not really a person. It's not really me, mine, myself. It's not a being or a person. It's just what it is. So you can see the body in the body, feelings in the feelings, in that way, in this way where you develop deep insight and a detached knowing of experience, so that the mind was free from suffering. If you ask your body, why do you have a pain, it can't answer you. If you ask your body, who do you belong to, it can't answer you. You ask your body any question, any part of your body, a question like this, it cannot answer. Because this body is just what it is. It's just the four elements. It's not really a self or a person. So we have to learn to keep investigating the nature of this body, the feelings that we get with this body, and over time what happens is we start to have a sense of separation in our experience between the mind that knows and the body and the feeling. These become the objects of what the mind knows. This is where wisdom arises. We see these things as just what they are. They're not a self, they're not me or mine, and they're just experiences that the mind can know but is not attached to. So they have this experience of separation arising, a bit like oil and water in a jar. You put them in a jar and they're both in the same jar, but they're completely separate. The two different liquids don't mix together. You could even consider, say, in the case of somebody who's died already, you could ask yourself, well, what happens to Wat Marp now? Where's the painful feeling gone now? It's gone, hasn't it? There's only the four elements left, just the earth, air, fire and water. So contemplating in all these different ways brings us insight, where we get to the point where we can see feeling is feeling, Wat Marp is Wat Marp, without attaching to it, without attributing a sense of self or a person to it. We just know it as what it is. This is the way we can develop our mind through the contemplating, bringing up mindfulness and investigating the truth. If we do this regularly and consistently, well, this can lead to states of samadhi, where the mind becomes very peaceful and quiet, and that supports further contemplation. These days, probably this is a very suitable way for us as human beings to practice, learning to use our wisdom and the reflective capacity of the mind to keep looking at truth, investigating, asking questions until the mind starts to settle down and let go of some of its attachments and delusions. This is what we call developing samadhi through panya, or through insight. And it's a very suitable method for making your mind peaceful. Ajahn, does anyone have any questions? What to ask? What about right at the back? You can hardly see you, but he's asking, anyone at the back have any questions? He says, just keep practicing. Practice a lot, do it often, do it regularly. The more you practice, the more you develop this quality of mindfulness and you'll understand the Dhamma more. Since he started off just the same as this, as you, he was a lay person practicing and he was able to develop some quite deep insights while he was practicing as a lay person. No different from you. He go to the monastery, join meditation retreats, do his own regular meditation practice, offer dana, keep the precepts. And it's quite possible for lay people to have insight and understand the Dhamma in this way. We should all keep developing our practice in this way.
Ajahn, what is the difference between thinking and contemplation? The
main difference is ordinary thinking doesn't really stop one just keeps on thinking, going around and around in an agitated, discursive way, or what we call mental proliferation, where you just keep going on and on and on. Wisdom brings the mind to stop, it stills the mind, quietens the mind, and one might have a sense of the mind becoming close to the Dhamma, absorbing into the Dhamma from whatever one's been reflecting on. Wise reflection brings one to see the Dhamma, absorb into the Dhamma, so there's a sense of both peace and understanding, the deep understanding arising. You feel quiet, feel peaceful from that. The Buddha's word for true insight or true wisdom is bhavana maya panya. Wisdom that arises through bhavana, mental cultivation. So it's no longer, it begins as just thinking the Dhamma, remembering the Dhamma, intellectually discussing it with oneself. But through the development of wisdom and contemplation, you're bringing the mind to this point where it starts to slow down, settle down, and even go quite still and quiet. Where mindfulness is established, samadhi arises in this state of stillness, and then one is just seeing Dhamma, knowing Dhamma without a lot of proliferation or thinking. The mind has gone to stillness.
Ajahn, wisdom. It seems that the wisdom there is a kind of called worldly wisdom. So the Buddha talked about right view. Is it referring to wisdom, the right view, or the other same?
Worldly wisdom tends to still have the sense of self accompanying it. So even though one can be wise, think many things, have skills, use the mind in different ways, there's always a sense of self with it. Lokuttara wisdom, transcendental wisdom that comes from practicing the path, is always wisdom that removes the sense of self, helps us to give up our clinging, our attachment to a sense of self. As an example, worldly wisdom might be as holding up a cup. Worldly wisdom is you know how to go out, earn a living, get money to buy a cup. Or you might know how to make a cup, to get clay in that, to make a cup. That's worldly wisdom. But you might still have this sense of this cup is my cup. You have an attachment. So one day, as time goes by, it might crack or break, and that will give rise to suffering, because you have this sense of this is my cup. But really that attachment, that's your mind, is just adding on to that cup. And this is my cup. Or it could be anything else you have, any of your wealth, possessions, anything you love and like in this world. You have this sense of attachment to it. Worldly wisdom, it can bring you that, but it doesn't bring you freedom from suffering yet, because you have this attachment. So when that thing changes or breaks or dies, or you suffer. True wisdom or transcendental wisdom is going deeper, isn't it? Saying, what is this cup? This cup doesn't know anything about who it belongs to. It doesn't know it's called a cup even. It's just four elements. It's just mainly clay and other chemicals and things come together. But it doesn't know whose it is. It doesn't know it's a cup. It doesn't know anything like that. It doesn't know who you are. So you're contemplating like that and say, well, what really is a cup? Oh, it's just the four elements. It's earth, air, fire and water come together in this form. And you're contemplating that, becoming mindful of that fact, mindful of the fact that this cup comes from the elements. Those elements are impermanent. They can't stay in that form forever. Then one day they'll degenerate or crack or break. You're becoming mindful of the fact that they're impermanent. They're dukkha in the sense they don't endure. They can't bring you any kind of lasting happiness. That cup won't last forever. And they're not self. There's no kind of self or being in that cup that you can sort of hold onto and control and make be the way you want. So that's transcendental wisdom, is coming to understand that fact, on a deeper level, that this thing we call a cup is actually, you're seeing through the conventional reality, the label, and seeing, well, actually it's just something with four elements that is bound to break, bound to crack. And you get freedom there, don't you? Freedom from that normal way of attaching to things. That disappears when you see the truth of it. That's why we call it transcendental wisdom. It's the wisdom that frees you from suffering, frees you from attachment to the world. And then, you can use it in different ways. You see that truth in a cup, or what we call a cup, you can turn it around and start contemplating your own body in that same way. Well, this body, I normally call it my body, but the body doesn't know who it belongs to. It doesn't know anything about being a name or who it belongs to. The body is just four elements come together. You can keep contemplating that, and you start to become, very careful and mindful and aware. Oh, this body is impermanent. This body will not last forever. And you see, I must keep investigating this truth so I don't keep suffering and attaching to this body and suffering with it. You become aware in that way. You realize, well, if I don't practice, if I just carry on, I'm always going to be suffering. I'm going to be caught into delusions like this, and I'll keep suffering and falling into grief and unhappiness because of these attachments. So the more you practice, the more you want to practice, the more you see, oh, this is valuable, I'm becoming more free from suffering by seeing the truth of the nature of this body. And this is the value of the practice.
Dhamma, in one of the Bhikkhu Thanisaro writings about Ajahn Anan from Dhammasati, he asked him one striking question and he gets one striking answer. He asked him, before he becomes monk, do I have to believe in Rama? And Ajahn Anan Chotiko, he says, no, you don't have to, but you have to believe in karma. What's your view on that?
What was the first question he asked? Do I have to believe in karma?
No, do I have to believe in Rama, in God?
Or in Brahma?
Brahma. And the answer was, no, you have to believe in karma.
When he's asking, do you believe in God? Or and said, you don't have to believe in God, but believe in karma. The belief in God symbolizes the belief in self, being in a realm, Deva realm or Brahma realm. And the belief in karma symbolizes that which takes us beyond self, goes deeper and leads us to let go of self and the concept of self. So the Buddhist path is one of abandoning unwholesome karma we make through body, speech and mind, developing wholesome karma through body, speech and mind, developing the path to purify the mind to the point where we have insight to see that this body and mind are not self, they're anatta. I said a bit more, I forgot, but that's the main point of what he said.
Coming back.
Once you understand karma, you also start to understand how this whole cycle of birth and death and existence comes into being. As the Buddha taught you make karma, obviously you have to experience the results of your karma. As we experience the results of our karma, what we call vipaka, this will be a cause for the arising of kilesa, mental defilements, which lead us to make more karma. And this is a kind of self-sustaining cycle of making karma, receiving the results, these stimulate mental defilements, and we make more karma and we receive more results, and this stimulates more mental defilements. The only way out of that process of that cycle or process is to start practicing the path, developing mindfulness, developing insight, which allows us to see the true nature of existence, remove or uproot mental defilements. So as karma arises, as karma gives its results, we're no longer falling into mental defilements. The mind comes to see the truth as the way it is. The Dhamma gradually purifies itself to the point where there's no more mental defilements, no more karma is made, no more results are made. One gets out of that whole cycle of karma, resultant karma and mental defilements. This is nirvana.
Why a person can be still so lazy to practice meditation?
Sorry, speak now.
Why one can be still lazy to practice meditation? Is it to do with the habitual, or just is faith not strong enough?
Generally, the reason we are lazy or don't put forth effort into the practice is because we are not seeing the suffering life and the potential suffering. You might say we tend to become complacent or indulgent in the world. We find satisfaction and contentment with all kinds of worldly pleasures and pursuits and activities to the point where we're no longer seeing suffering, no longer seeing the impermanence of our life. And we're just sort of caught up in all those pleasures and distractions and other things. So to counter that, one has to arouse an awareness, say, particularly of the impermanence of our life. We're not going to be here forever to indulge and enjoy all those different pleasures and distractions. But eventually it all comes to an end. We die. We have, therefore, when we contemplate, to see the impermanence of things. That's what arouses some effort to see, well, it is worth training the mind to bring it out of its attachment. It can be, we can develop the mind out of this attachment to all the attachments and the pleasures and the distractions that we have to something better. We can get to develop insight and experience higher states of peace based on that. But we have to keep arousing ourselves by contemplating in this way, see the impermanence of life, see the impermanence of the very pleasures that we like to indulge in that make us lazy or not think about the practice. See it all very transient, very impermanent. And little by little you get more of a sense of urgency to keep practicing.
Thank you, Ajahn.
Ajahn, what's the best way to do it? In seclusion or in your daily life? Just carry on your life as usual and just contemplate. Or you go into seclusion and look at the suffering yourself.
Depends on your opportunity, really. If you can practice at home or in your daily life, just keep contemplating. That's a valid way to practice. If you have the opportunity to go on a retreat or go to a quiet place where you are, maybe it's more secluded for practice, that's good as well. It just depends on your opportunities, what arises in your life.
I'm saying that, and should we still get involved with things, or?
Really, this is a question you have to answer for yourself. It's a matter of our own wisdom, our own understanding. Like if he says, you should just cut off everything and focus on your Dhamma practice, you can say that, but whether you're really ready to do it, you might say, well, I'd like to, but then I've got this and I've got that and the other. It's really your own reflection. You have to see. It's a sort of where your wisdom and your understanding's at. You'll see what you can let go of, what is an obstacle to your practice, where you are distracted or indulging in other less important things. You have to look and see for yourself and see what you need to give up. Last question, he says. He's happy to take one more.
Ajahn, I have a question. When someone wants to become a monk, in their families, sometimes parents or wives and family members, they prevent them by giving up the lay life. Do those family members make bad karma by preventing them?
With this, it's really a matter of the intention of everybody involved. So, it's just natural if a family member, a son or a husband or a brother or somebody wants to ordain, is natural because of our family attachment, ties, well-wishing love for each other, that there'll be a sense of, they'll go. Sense of separation missing. There also can be wisdom though. There can be a sense of, what if you don't make it? What if you go for a while and then you come back, you've got no job to come to, or you're going to be worse off later because you spent this time in the roads and then you didn't make it and you come back. Could be with genuine concern for the future in that way. So it's a matter of the intention. Say if one, what is motivating one to suggest to someone don't go and become a monk or something like that. The one wanting to become a monk, their intention is also important, obviously, and if they're genuinely seeing the danger in samsara, of danger of attachment, the suffering that comes from this, their intention might be very pure. I want to practice for the ending of this. And similarly, the Buddha said it's like it's somebody who's seen their house is on fire and it's dangerous, so they should get out of that house. They might also have compassion for their family members. They say, well, if I go off and practice, I'll be able to understand the Dhamma better and I'll be able to help them better. Maybe I'll be able to go back and help them out of the house that's on fire. Maybe they haven't seen the houses on fire yet. And I have to practice and then I can go back and show them, oh, this house is on fire, please come out of it. So it's all about intention, both the ones who are the family members, the individual who wants to ordain. Each person has to look at their intention, and that intention is what determines whether it's good or bad karma. So Jan is just saying farewell to you all. This is the last day, last session. For those of you who haven't been here on earlier occasions, he has some of these beads and photographs to give away still. Photos of one of our teachers, Ajahn Anan, when he died, with the light, his varami on his body, and there's beads that have been blessed by Ajahn. You're welcome to come forward and receive one if you would like.